for the next match. So, do you want to talk about the news right now?
Hey, let's do it. Let's do it. I'm all hyped for that.
Okay. So, as you probably all know, on Monday, Blizzard announced changes coming to Hearthstone this spring, basically doing the same thing that Magic the Gathering has been doing for years. That is, establishing a rotation in seasons, whereas every year, once a first expansion hits, every card that's older than 2 years is discontinued. In this case, once comes spring's expansion, Goblins vs. Gnomes and Curse of Naxxramas will be discontinued from standard and tournament play. That's a total of 153 cards. With that, they also making changes to the game itself, how it's played, dividing play mode into Standard and Wild. Wild is Hearthstone we know and love right now, and Standard will be that for only the cards for for the last 2 years. Blizzard itself has also said that Standard will be the default mode for at least its tournaments, and I would assume for any other serious tournament. So yeah.
Well, basically for any tournament that awards Hearthstone World Championship points.
Yes.
You will have
including us.
tournament formats regarding prize monies that feature both Wild and Standard format, but regarding Hearthstone World Championship points, only Standard will be featured.
So the key cards that are going to be out of the rotation come spring are the also loved Dr. Boom, Sludge Belcher, Antique Healbot, Piloted Shredder, Mech Mage dies, Mech Shaman dies, Midrange Paladin loses a lot of tools from what I
Not only mid-range Paladin, I would say Paladin in general loses any semblance. Like Paladin going back to the Dark Ages when it was just a control deck, which even ran Giants.
Yes, I think Morlock Paladin still is in a good shape. There are not that too many cards that have to be changed. Notably, I think
the problem with Morlock Paladin is they're losing heal bots, so they're losing essentially 16 worth of health of stalling, and they don't really have a replacement at all for that.
Yes, I think that's the biggest hit. Like I would that was about to say that. Yeah, I played for the last 2 weeks. I played heavily that deck, and having those heal bots is very nice. Well,
for me, this is like the community in general thinks these changes are a little bit too obscure from Blizzard's perspective. Like, I don't really understand their argument. They can still play Wild, and their argument of that Standard is the main mode is kind of like void concerning their like issues of, I don't know, not having enough dust to keep up with Standard or whatever. For me, it's like very exciting because, as far as I'm concerned, it just opens so much deck creativity slots because in a game like Hearthstone where you have a deck of 30 cards, lack of cards actually promotes more creativity as opposed to being abundance of.
Yes, you're right. Like if you have all the cards available, that stagnates the meta. You basically put all the best cards and that's there. You don't have to make hard choices if you have the access to great cards.
Another thing I just wanted to point out, like for example, there's kind of cards that basically this stable, like you put Dr. Boom in basically every mid-range and control deck because it's like the best neutral legendary or whatever. And since you have like abundance of Dr. Booms and abundance of decks, you basically make another card a staple, that being Big Game Hunter. With the removal of Big Game Hunter, you basically enable a lot more diversity. Like, it's arguable that Big Game Hunter is going to leave the meta, right? Because Dr. Boom leaves the meta. So you're basically leaving a lot of diversity for actual big minions with like not maybe instantaneous effects like Ragnaros, but like for example, I don't know, like we might even see like Venture Mercenary make it back into constructed lists because it's like a 7/6. It doesn't get targeted by a necessarily overpopulated BGH anymore. Like it leaves so many options for deck creators to fiddle around with just because of an absence of some cards. Not necessarily because they're banned, because they're not needed to play anymore.
So I would say that before GVG, before Dr. Boom, I would say BGH was still quite popular.
It was
just
only
because...
the reasoning because, Handlock was insanely popular back
Yes, because he has handlock, and I would say Dr. Boom ate Ragnaros' lunch. I think before Dr. Boom, Ragnaros was the staple card you would put in every control deck. I will also want to mention that about your comments from the community's reaction is that sure, it does punish in a way people who have already invested in their existing cards, and just for this past week I've just been thinking about how many good cards are going to be out of the game, but I'm on a wait and see policy. I want to see once they announce the new expansion, what are those going to be cards, what replacements for we're going to see, and also they also have mentioned that they're going to rebalance some of the core and classic cards. So the cards that have been from the beginning of Hearthstone are also eligible for standard play. Not only the latest cards released in the last 2 years. They have commented that Druid is probably going to see the biggest changes, because Druid right now is the class that most heavily rely on first issue cards. Keeper of the Grove, Ancient of War, Savage Roar plus Force of Nature. They have said that I think there's been a lot of speculation that probably that count is going to see some change. I will say that I think probably Force of Nature is going to see something. Maybe Savage Roar will be nerfed. I don't know. We'll see.
I want Innervate nerfed. Honestly, I think Innervate's the biggest problem card.
Well, how do you nerf it?
Well, my proposition was basically really irrelevant. It's just a slight tweak in power level. I would make Innervate cost 1 mana and give free crystals. So basically, you can't Innervate off 0 mana. You need a little bit more forethought into it.
I don't know. I don't think that changes much. I think if they're gonna do something with Innervate, I think they're gonna make it a coin.
Oh god, that would be terrible. No,
because I don't think that gain 3 mana for 1 is enough, especially when still Emperor is gonna be in the game for a year. So if you can get discount on that.
It actually makes Emperor stronger. But in the context of what Emperor does for you, Innervate just loses in value anyway. It gives you a free mana discount, but since you're discounting all your cards anyway, it's not that impactful. But aside from that, I'm obviously thinking Savage Roar is going to see some change. Force of Nature should probably not be changed. Well, I like discussing nerfs and all, but Druid didn't take a big hit, arguably, but it did lose Shredder, which is its core 4-drop. It might be replaced with Yeti, but I think the deck is going to lose some amount of power. Also, Shade, it loses Shade, so this unfairness, which would occur late game where you would just drop a Shade that you can't deal with, and it would give an extra piece to the combo, would also disappear. I think it does suffer some losses in that respect.
It also loses Lothep, which is a card that still is in there. So, of course, it loses Boom, but I think out of all the decks, Druid loses the least, I would say, and still any popular Druid archetypes have their core is built around those first issue cards. So I think that. I also think Sylvanas probably gonna see some kind of a rework, because at least some kind of tweaks, because once all those cards are taken out, Sylvanas probably will spring back into the popularity. She has faded away a little bit recently, so I think they're gonna tweak her, but we'll see. Also,
Sylvanas is an awesome card for high-level play because it opens up so many possibilities. I'm actually much more excited about cards that are actually going to buff that have been completely disregarded in the basic set. For example, Drain Life is just it's insulted by Bash. Bash is just a pure insult to Drain Life, for example.
I think if you go to Play Hearthstone YouTube channel, I think Ben Broad, the senior designer on Hearthstone at Blizzard, has said as much that they're not too keen on buffing old cards. That they're more.
But they did announce that reworking the base set.
I think that's more
to standard. They would also include buffs to overshadowed cards that are just nigh unplayable at all.
Yes, they have said that. They said that basically it's going to be from 2 to 20 cards. They haven't decided right yet, and I think they, maybe I'm wrong, Mr. Bamber, in this, but I think they are gonna they're gonna put their emphasis on nerfs, not so necessarily buffs. Also, what I want to mention, this change to the structure of standard play also fixes two big problems that I think one of the things that Hearthstone had for, let's say, a year right now, and the other that is becoming bigger and bigger. One, of course, is how do you get new players into it? Once you get too big of a pool of cards, for any competitive play, if anyone wants to be semi-serious, they will have to spend a lot of dust and gold and money just to gain enough cards to be anywhere competitive. So restricting, let's say, all the cards to 4 or 5 sets is a lot easier to manage than, let's say, 7, 8, or going forward in the next years, 12, 15, 20. Also, what it allows them, for Blizzard particularly, is to maintain some sort of balance and fight with power creep. Once Piloted Shredder, for example, was released, all 4 drops kind of paled to comparison. Like, I think
it's really funny to talk about power creep though. When you think about Pilot Shredder being the ultimate 4-drop, which was the first expansion in, we've had since a lot of adventures and expansions coming in, Pilot Shredder was still one of the best. I think the main issue really was how, I think Death Rattle is just the way Death Rattle was implemented in Hearthstone, that you mostly, the effects of Death Rattle are spawning new creatures after one dying, is the main issue, because it's such a stupid mechanic. It just makes so many cards obsolete. It makes silence so valuable, which is also another reason why Druid was stupidly stupid. It had Keeper as a staple in its deck, which was an auto silence where every other deck has to include a silence in their deck to combat these stupid Death Rattles. So your board clears are useless. Flamestruck is an awesome card. It's not being run because it doesn't deal with Death Rattles. It was just completely overpowered mechanic in classic Hearthstone. It was so easily abused by so many classes due to abundance of buff minions like Dwargar and Dwarf, Abusive Sergeant, even Knife Juggler. So many classes could abuse this mechanic to such an extent, and there was never introduced Hearthstone never really introduced a real mechanic that punishes that at all, aside from maybe Priest, who steals your minions and uses those Death Rattles for himself. But yeah, Death Rattle itself was such a stupid mechanic. It wasn't really thought out well, and I'm actually so amazed how well Blizzard handled this issue. With one click, they just solve all the problem cards. Almost all problem cards that the community has been whining about have been solved with this one change. Most of the Death Rattle minions from GVG are gone. Most of the staples from GVG are gone. And Nax Remus had so many overpowered cards in its arsenal, and most of those are being removed, most notably Mad Science, which almost kills the mage class in its entirety, because there was literally no mage deck that didn't run Mad Scientist.
I don't think it completely kills. I think Tempo Mage still might live. We'll see what the new expansion brings. Freeze Mage was completely fine without Mad Scientist. It became stronger for it, of course, but I think it will still manage. I wouldn't be surprised if, let's say, they will look at Freeze Mage as a staple that's been around forever and say, how can we tinker with it? Maybe they will do some change to Charge Mage Antonitis to make that deck maybe a bit weaker. We'll see. I think when they released Nax and when they released GVG, they did both of those did great things in terms of enabling a lot of new decks. But I think they might have gone a bit overboard by creating those awesome minions, because once Sludge Belcher came into play, well, of course, every control and mid-range deck is going to use Sludge Belchers. And Tink Healbot, almost the same. Dr. Boom, no problem. The same goes for Pilot Shredder. I think your comment about Death Rattle is not so much of the mechanic itself, but how the mechanic has been used. Specifically, how it was used in Curse of Naxxramas. Especially when... What was that 1-2 card? Underkeeper,
Undertaker.
Like that was emblematic of how Death Rattle could go overboard. Of course, they nerfed that card, and that card died quite fastly. But I think your comment about that Death Rattle summons another minion is the thing, because Nerubian Egg, Haunted Creeper, Sludge Belcher, like Pilot the Shredder, like yeah, those are the cards that always summon something else. The 6-drop. The big Pilot the Shredder.
Pilot Skylum, but I think Pilot Skylum's a perfectly fine card because you're actually investing a lot of resources into it.
Well, yeah, okay, that I can see. I think Blizzard, I think they have learned their lessons, because since
they
then...
also, the other thing they removed heavily from that is the random number generation, because Pilot Shredder was such a frustrating card, because like everyone would play Pilot the Shredder, but somehow your opponent's Pilot the Shredder will always get a Millhouse Mana Storm, and you will always get like I don't know,
Doomsayer.
No, not a Doomsayer. Doomsayer would be fine occasionally, but I'm talking like garbage tier, something like Jeweled Scarab, like Armor Smith. I don't know.
Okay,
Armor
Smith sometimes can be clutch. Let's say Ancient Watcher. If you don't have a silence, that's...
Yeah, well, basically that's what I'm talking about. The RNG factor was so much. You're playing the same card, but the power difference on some certain outcomes was so huge it was just not really fun at all. Or even like the difference between a 2 mana, like a 2 damage implosion or a 4 damage implosion is also huge, which also has been removed from the game. So it's like with GVG came so much like RNG into the game, and it's all been removed in one fell swoop. Like, I'm just amazed how many issues Blizzard has kind of solved with this, like in terms of like deck creation specifically. I just feel like it's such a much better like environment.
I think it will, as you said before, will solve some of the issues the community has been, let's say, bitching about for the longest time. I think we coped and learned to live with Sludge Belchers, Piloted Shredders, and Dr. Booms all around. But because of all of that, I'm super excited to see what are the new cards they're gonna announce, because some deck types are definitely going away. Secret Paladin, because Avenge is gonna go away, kind of takes a big hit in that regard. So it's gonna be interesting to see, are they gonna put a secret that's gonna replace Avenge and keep Secret Paladin in the loop? Because without it, I think that deck type dies. I also want to see what they're going to do secrets-wise in general, because as you mentioned, Mad Scientist is going to hit the bucket. And
I'm actually quite sad about that. I think most people like hate the card, but honestly, it was one of the better death rattles, really.
Well, I think it was very interesting death rattle. I think it's one of those death rattles that was very versatile. It saw play both in mid-range control and aggro. It was a very interesting way to control your card draw. And again, it enabled a lot. It enabled decks and stuff we hadn't seen before.
Yeah, I'm gonna miss those secret. Mad Scientist, Imperial Arcanist type of decks. There's like, let's be honest, like pre-Nex, Secret Mage needed help. Maybe Scientist was a bit too over the top, but like we're losing some serious secrets here. We're losing Duplicate, and we're losing what was the other secret?
No, we're losing.
Oh no,
that's it.
We're losing Control Mage heavily because we lost Echo of Medivh, and Duplicate. It was really sad for some really weird Mage shenanigans that could have been pulled.
Yeah, for me, Mage is my favorite class. That's the one golden class I have. I really enjoy Mage, and around when I remember back when Curse of Naxxramas came out, Mage saw just a lot of fresh life putting pumped into it. GVG, with Echo Mage, also kind of continued that. For me personally, that's the one that I'm anxious the most about. I want to see how they're gonna keep Mage alive, because right now, Freeze Mage is the only one that I can see that can still be somewhat okay. Of course, the anti-heal bots have to be replaced somehow. Mad Scientist, okay, can live without. But yeah, everything else.
Freeze Mage pre-Nax was actually pretty much a struggle. You did take a lot of hits because you had to manually play your secrets. It was actually quite a big deal. Well, I think Freeze Mage is still going to be pretty cool, but it's like you also don't have to deal with Cousin Mystic anymore. But you also don't have to deal with opponent healing after you, Alex, right? But I just think that you're gonna die more often than you're ever gonna be able to sustain yourself past that turn where you can, Alex. Like, you're just gonna be bursted down more often without Mad Scientists for you.
Yeah. Right, you are. Yeah. I didn't really think about Freeze Mage pre Nax. But yeah, those are the changes coming to the game. Those are our 2 cents on the game. Exciting times are upon us. If Magic the Gathering can do it for decades, then probably Hearthstone can also do it. Anyway, we are waiting for some matches to end. It might take a couple of minutes, it might take a bit more, but this is Pentacle Esports Hearthstone Season 2 Tournament 5. We're going to take a short break and we'll be right back.
Right back.